go find another $4,000 1983? No, I looked for another car. Yes, I put that $4,000 towards the purchase of that car, but I upgraded. I fixed some things, you know, we went with not a CD player, but a USB port. I mean, there were things that we could upgrade that would enhance the use of that car using the insurance funds. That's what I saw this as an opportunity. We were going to use some insurance funds. That auditorium, if anyone can in this room or on the video can attest that that auditorium at Highland needs replaced. It is non-functional. The gym at Century, it's functional, but it doesn't meet the needs. And anyway, okay, moving on. Science rooms, there is another huge need. You know, as Courtney and I would go around to multiple groups, we finally labeled, we've got the AAAs. We needed to fix the arts, the academics, and the athletics. This was not just about athletics. There was so much more involved in this that would have met so many of the needs. So where do I want to see? There's a part of me that just wants to sit on this and redo it in May. I mean, that is really something that I feel that enough of the community will now take the time to understand. I think more of those that were disappointed that it didn't pass might now find themselves in the voting booth. I am on the fence about keeping Century on because I think that's still always been a priority in the SIP committee, and I think it would remain so. And how do we find, I mean, there's a lot of questions I have now about what kinds of funds, because there's always those kind of questions about what money are we sitting on, are we not using? Oh, so many people that said, oh, you're not spending your COVID money. They don't understand how the COVID money had to be spent. You know, you can't throw those things out there, and if you don't, you got to do your research. You've got to sit and listen and understand. I've learned so much in the past 2 years of how the finances work in the school district. It is not blank checks. It is just not done that way. Oh, I'm rambling here, but at the same time, I know another issue that has come up is the property across the street from Highland. And that came in at the 9th hour as an issue, and people now using that as something to, you know, squash this bond because of that property. That is a done deal. That had nothing to do with the bond. But I also am very 100% that was the right thing to do. That property had to be obtained by the school district. What happens with the property after the fact, that's not our, you know, the zoning is not something the school district has anything, but that property had to come to the school district. It just had to. It's too landlocked. Anyway, I've rambled. I don't know who else wants to take a turn, but that's where I'm at.
Can I respond to the property? Would you?
I've got a brief one.
Oh, sure.
I'll just make mine brief,
Oh, sure.
because, you know, I had lots of contacts with people who, in the end, who had questions initially. And when we talked and looked at the need, and they said, we should go ahead and vote for this. And, you know, people who were involved in education, who were interested, who were community people, community leaders. And I think that that's what we need to look at that and say, let's fix this right and do it right, like we planned. And you know, take it back to them. You know, and then we'll just deal with the consequence then. But I think it's
Easy for you to say. You're done.
but I've taken a lot of crap from a lot of, you know, over the years. Come on, yeah. So it's your turn. It's your turn. But no, I would, you know, I think that's what we're supposed to do. You know, sometimes you got to take it in the shorts and just carry on. And I think that's what we need to look at right now. Period. I'm finished.
Okay. I'll say my piece too. I agree with Paul. Everybody I talked to that had questions about the bond, after we talked, they would say they could see the need for it, and there was a lot of well, I didn't understand. I didn't know. It was like there wasn't a lot of information out there, and people would ask, well, how do we get that information? And bless their hearts, our communications people here are just, I mean, they do over-the-top work in the paper, on the, whatever they can to get that information out there. I know it's always on the website for the district, but every time I would explain to the people why we were doing this, I got almost 100% people say, but that's a good thing, and they're going to vote for it. So, I would really like to know where we failed and why we didn't fail. If there was what was the reasoning behind why we didn't get the votes that we needed to get this to pass. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was because people are afraid that their taxes would go up. I don't know if it was because they were. I mean, I've heard tons that they don't trust us. If you look at what we've done with this, not me, but the school district has done with their monies over the last 10, 12 years, they have used their plant facility money and their levies and so well. They have used that money in such good ways. I mean, Leo, you look at the addition to Pocatello High School, you look at New Horizon, you look at the rebuild of Alameda and the things that they've done and never had to go out for a bond. That we probably maybe should have or could have gone for a bond for a lot of that project, but we haven't done that because they've done so well with their money, and it just, I just don't understand why people don't trust the school district. I don't know what it is about what it is they don't trust, but anyway, I think the school district's done fabulous things with their money and been very responsible with it, and I agree with Paul. I think my gut feeling is let's do it again. Let's just get more information out there and see if we can't get more voters. But then that puts us on a deal. If we don't pass it again in May, then I guess at that point we're just going to have to go forward.
We can do it in August.
We can do it in August?
May and then in August?
Yeah.
Well, but if we don't pass it again in May, then I suppose then,
Right.
I would love to hear from them as
okay.
well.
Angie has to go, so she.
Yeah, so just before I leave really fast, my concern would be if we do another bond, are we gonna split it or leave Century out and then figure out how to do Centuries like we did Pocatello's by selling, property and other things to help get that done. And donations. So I just hate pushing off getting Highland.
Back on track.
Yeah, because I don't want any more kids not to have, their full high school experience and not have those facilities. So that's my 10 cents.
Yeah, I just wanted to say with Highland, people say, oh, they're fine. They're not fine. There are lunch tables all along the hallways with the lunch carts that get pulled out right into the middle of the only hallway that they have left. And their gym has been closed since the beginning of the year, recently opened. The auditorium was closed for most of the time. Where are they supposed to even gather? There is no place for these kids. And so I don't think they're fine. And I don't like it when people say, oh, everything's fine. It is not fine. The weight room, the weight classes are down by half. Half the kids can take weights. And I just barely found that out. And
Can
a lot
I
of
just
things.
address that real quick?
Sure.
It's not by half. We used to cap those
That's
classes.
just what the teacher told me.
Yeah, we used to cap those classes at 50. We moved that cap, I think, to 38. So.
And I thought it
so
had
it's
to be reduced
It's by
again.
20-something percent. We haven't reduced them again.
Okay.
But you're right. I mean, things are tight right now, and they're gonna be tight until we can rebuild, whether that is with just insurance money or with additional monies for the bond. That's just our reality until we can get something built back, which is unfortunate. And I've talked to this fact before for students who are in our high school right now. Most of our kids we have right now will never see a full school again.
No, my child won't.
Which is unfortunate, and so that's heartbreaking. So when we talk about kicking the rock down the road, as I like to say it, with let's try again in May, let's try again in August, I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I would ask that we take the time to go on a fact-finding mission and let's find out, like, where did this fall short for people? I really truly believe that the majority of people who voted no were misinformed. I really truly believe that. And it's so easy to share misinformation through social media and through other outlets right now. And as humans, we tend to believe things that we see, right? And so we need to find out what that misinformation is, and we need to figure out, we need to have a plan to better inform if the plan is to go for a bond again. If we're not going to do that work, I see no reason to kick the rock down the road.
Yeah, we don't have to make a decision right now.
I want to minimize the number of kids that are going to have an entire high school experience that's not an entire high school
Oh,
experience.
my daughter is one of them.
Yeah.
This is gonna be just a random thought, but can modulars be used for an external cafeteria?
And they can, it's just, you know, are you talking like kitchen space or seating space? So, sure, so it would be a classroom size, so you'd fit 30 people in one, right? You can have more than one. Or a triple, you could definitely have more. Yeah, you could have a lot more.
That whole front part of the
Sure.
building where the new parking lot will go, the staff parking,
Mm-hmm.
we can level that in preparation for that parking lot
1,000, yep.
and put mods there if the need is there.
I would
For
tell you
that.
logistically, that's a supervision nightmare. Like, I'm having hives right now just thinking about that. And you know, we were able to remove all of the lockers from that common space. So where most of those tables are and where they set up the tables and things to serve lunch is a space that was not able to be used as a thoroughfare before. Now, the other side where there's tables, right, I mean, I'm not gonna tell you that we don't have less space to move around, because we absolutely do. I mean, it's very, very crowded. And now that it's getting cold outside, lunchtime is tough. I mean, I think our librarian told us we have close to 200 kids that eat in our library every day.
And the teachers' classrooms.
And teachers' classrooms, absolutely. So, I mean,
Bleachers.
It just causes stress.
It does.
Can we use the gym or the bleachers?
Then they
Pull,
can't use
pull,
it- then
pull
they
out the
can't use it.
bleachers, but then cleaning.
Then well, why shouldn't they be able to use a gathering space, you know? I mean, they need somewhere to be, so no, I don't think the gym should be used for cafeteria.
No, it's our one gym.
It's our
And
only.
we're trying, you know, we finally let
I don't know if
PE in
that's
there
worth
this week. And just the black marks, I mean, you got regular an athletic director's having to come apart. It's our only gym.
We're trying to preserve some spaces, right? I mean, the gym is a sacred place for a lot of kids, and it's an important place for a lot of kids, and so we're trying to preserve spaces like that as much as we can, because we don't have many to preserve as it is, so.
And I'm so glad that the auditorium was just barely reopened again, because Jonathan and I were in there yesterday, and all the kids gathering, practicing their drama, practicing their, you know, these things are so important. They need to have a space for those things.
I mean, the cafeteria actually works pretty good. The weight room function pretty good, but choir and band, it's not, that's my worry.
So then here goes another question. So I know we've got the plans and the ideas for Highland. Is it, you know, and again, just throwing these out here, can we stage it where we use the insurance money and start to bring back some of those pieces with the idea that the full plan that we had projected still be projected, and where monies can come from. And then I guess the one other piece, and I'll ask this of Jonathan, is that the other thing that kept coming up were all the ceilings and the roofs and the leaks, and does this bond gonna cover some of those other issues that keep coming up? I don't know if you can address that as well.
Can I address that? Because
Somebody
I've had it with that.
Right?
I've actually invited people to come up and walk through the building with me. There's a lot of photos out there that
Yeah.
were from the summer, and it's the misleading, it's the minority that and I agree, it's the social media that goes out there and everybody sees it, and it's not right. And I've asked, I love what you put out there,
Thank you.
because I see a lot of selfishness. I see a lot of people that want to bring up, I'm a Highland Ram. And I still, I dealt with it over the football. You brought up that new facility at Highland High School.
No, I didn't.
Or Angie talked about it, that people bring up Holt Arena. I was a Holt Arena fan. And I am not anymore because I've seen what it did for band. I saw the day that the turf was done, that band students actually went out there and laid on it. I saw them host a band competition on there. I saw girls and boys soccer finally have a place to go play with the big ram in the middle of it. And that's what people do not see. It's not a new gym. It's so much more. It is a brand new school. And I've mentioned that to the people that actually reach out. We build the things the way that we talked about in the bond. That is a brand new school. And I get feedback, well, the classrooms. Well, there's very few people that go into a classroom. And those classrooms are doing just fine. They're able to have technology. Kids have Chromebooks. And they're able to be taught in classrooms. They work just fine. And yes, there's been leaks. There's been leaks for years. But I have a house that's 3 years old. And I have leaks. And when there's a flash flood, guess what? When most people in here, Jenna dealt with it out in her neighborhood. When there's a flash flood, that's just how it is. And it doesn't mean the building needs to be rebuilt. Yeah, there needs to be things fixed. Our drains, the water comes down so fast. It was ultimately, Jonathan, was it drains? Drains, you can't, those things happen. But Highland High School and the plan that we had, to me, was the smart decision. Because no, we didn't have to pay $135 million for a brand new school, because ultimately we were getting a brand new school. And now I will tell that to anybody that I visit with. The school board made the right decision, because we were going to get a brand new school, 6A brand new school, not a 1963 school, a school that had the updates that we needed. We didn't used to have girls basketball in 1960. We didn't have freshmen. That's why you need 3 gymnasiums or 2 gymnasiums and a half. Things have changed. And it's to give kids opportunity. And that's what we want. We want to be able to give kids the best opportunity they possibly can. And so that, I've held back, and I didn't even want to talk today, because today was every bit as disheartening as April 21st.
Yeah.
Because people want to believe not what the truth is. They want to find fault some way. I heard, we won't be able to build an elementary school for 20 years if we pass this bond. I've heard, it's about Highland High School getting gymnasiums and we don't have them. And it's not right. And I'd love somebody to come sit with me as I worked all day on trying. This weekend we play at Pokey. Next weekend we play at Century. Where are they practicing this day? And it's going to be 3 years of that. I've never wanted to quit this job. But I did today. And it's 3 more years at minimum of this, not just for our kids, but for our teachers, for us administrators, for us here in this room. It's rough. And I just don't think people thought about others first in this vote.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you sharing that.
Let me just,
I really want people to understand.
let me just throw out just a couple dates, a couple numbers, for the board to kind of, as you weigh through all of these things, and some of these are gonna be contrary to each other, but again, to know. So, the May election, our ballot language, remember that was our big push with the county. The ballot language is the 26th of March, give or take a day. I know it's after our regular board meeting in March. So, okay, that's the timeline. So there was some questions about designing, scaling, smaller, bigger. Again, we had staging, yep, we have our team there, and they just need direction. But they're at our disposal to do as we would like them to do. And obviously the community with input and so forth. So, there's that option. I did just want to, again, throw out the numbers so we calculate, okay, to pass, we would have had to flip 1,252 votes. Of the voters that voted,
The total.
of the 11,651,
11,000, we needed 1,000 more.
1,252, yeah, yeah. So that's the task,
It's a lot of
ahead of us.
support, too.
It is, there was great
Just
support.
not enough.
That not enough, yeah, the majority, and again, this is the hard thing, it goes up to the legislature, and even it's in the Constitution, again, this is the one vote in Idaho that the majority can lose, and we saw that, and Travis spoke to that, so but again, that's the parameters that we, have to deal with in our system there. So anyway, those were just a couple of those, as you consider those, your different options there.
When do you think we might hear solid numbers about insurance replacement? I mean, I know we've said that 24 was a conservative estimate. When?
Correct.
I would like to see the estimates and see. the
Absolutely, we can,
Details.
so what we're getting now is called, the ACV, and it's called the actual cash,
Cost value.
actual cost value, and then the other value is the replacement cash value. The actual cash value takes in depreciation, so it's a very small number. But the large number that we put out, the 25 million, is the replacement cash value. And that will happen when we show that we are going to replace it as with the same like, kind, and quality. So.
We have to show plans, this is what we,
And even to the point of even to the point of building. So it's going to be, this will be open, and please,
Does it go
please,
down? Does it go down the longer we wait?
no,
Oh, okay.
it's replaceable, we're fully insured.
3 years before.
No, the
Correct.
insurance was good.
Correct,
Yeah.
insurance is good, but it's just you have, and that's what Highland's dealing with contents.
Yeah, I just said inventories.
Inventories and
It's a
contents
four-letter
are.
word at our school.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with our department. It's just amazing of how much of everything that got destroyed. It's not until we put an invoice to the insurance agent that we will get full replacement value. And so we're going literally,
Line by line.
thousands,
thing by
3,000, 4,000, 5,000 different items.
Keep going, I think.
Yes, a number of different types of items. Highland and our business department there, definitely doing above and beyond. But anyway, that's where I say it's not until we actually show that we're replacing it that we will get that full 100% replacement.
But in a bond, it is returned. Anything that isn't used for this is returned to the taxpayers.
Oh, yes, and I did have
So
that
that's
comment
why-
there too.
That's why there's that, controversy about, you don't have the number yet. No, we don't have the number yet. That's why it has to be an estimate, a best guess.
Until we
estimate,
go to replace it.
But none of that money can be spent for anything else. And if it comes in under, it is returned.
Correct, it would all go to Highland, all go to,
those
to the taxpayer.
specific projects.
Correct, because I heard some crazy things as well, that we were combining this and,
No.
but no.
That's the safety net of insurance companies, is the replacement cash value. And so, yeah, they could say, here's a check for $10 million, but that doesn't do us any good until we're ready to build, hand them an invoice. And we use those estimates from our instruction company, construction managers, yeah.
Correct,
And
correct.
so that's how, and I think in our Q&A, we addressed that a few weeks ago because that was kind of out there. How'd you come up with 25 million? So we used the square footage and then calculated it based upon today's current rates, best we can. And certainly, 9 months out, that could change. It will likely fluctuate. Bond market could change, that may fluctuate, so our
Yeah.
numbers will change, but the process by which we get there will not change.
Correct.
But
And
that's why we hired the professionals.
Yes,
to
it
give
is.
us those numbers.
So much so that if you'll recall in one of our meetings, when we talked about the staggered times of build for Century High School, Bateman Hall Group said, you know what, we're not going to undercut you here. We're going to add about another 900,000 because we anticipate 3 years out when we're ready to start this project, costs will go up, labor will go up, materials will go up. So we're not going to cut ourselves short, and we're building that into the plan.
Yeah, and then I just wanted, just since, I don't think we've talked at a board meeting about this insurance. So again, there's, oh, you're getting a lot more for insurance, and that is actually true, because we had to clean it, we had to demo it, we had to bring it up to code, and so that number is larger, but we've paid, we've paid that out to all of our contractors, to do that. And so it won't be, still working on millions of dollars worth of inventory that is above that number, but it is highly contested. It's going straight to their inventory. But everything from the insurance is being spent on that Highland campus, the part that was burnt, the contents that were burnt.
So can I just ask a bond/levy 101 question? So I noticed, Shelley and ourselves, neither one of us that ran floated bonds in Idaho passed, but yet a lot of these supplemental levies did. Is this something, if we were to pare this down into smaller pieces, can you do supplemental levies for some of these projects? Or is that, what are the restrictions on?
I'm going to let Jonathan take part of that, but I want to just address Mr. Facer's question when he said, why did it fail? And as I looked through even those levy passage rates, typically I would see those in mid-60s to 70 range. Across the board, they were probably upper 50s, I would say. Would you agree?
Correct.
Yeah, and so I don't know a little bit of kind of the signs and conditions under which we live right now, whether it's threat of war, threat of recession, so forth. But those numbers were down across the board. So I'm going to let Jonathan pick up the second part of that.
Okay, and even before I thought, I just wanted to give credit to Courtney Fisher, our Director of Communications. She's already started, I think Ms. Oliver talked about some data. She's already looking at voting precincts to see which ones passed, which ones didn't pass, and kind of lay that onto our map to see if there were some pockets that, again, there's some data that we could mine a little bit. So, to answer your question, it hasn't been proven in the state, but yes, as these have been failing, people are getting very creative. Okay, I'm going to get a loan or a lease and use a supplemental levy to pay for that lease. If you notice, our good neighbors and friends to the north, Idaho Falls, theirs is stuck in the courts because they did not get approved by the state tax commission. Again, yes, that might be a way to pay for facilities, but you do not get the bond levy equalization. So you'd pay full price. Correct. It would be 25% or 30% that you would not get, that you don't get through supplemental. But the supplementals do have a smaller threshold, the 50%.
So here's another question, because I know
Please.
we've got a member of the group that questioned, if our bond is if we did float it again in May, it would be an existing bond because it would be in place by August 1st. So that whole-
was gonna be an existing
I know
bond.
that, but just to put it out there and clarify, it would be an existing bond.
Correct.
Thank
It
you.
would definitely qualify for that.
And we
Idaho
were
Code
told that
30
this would also from the state tax commission.
33911. Correct.
And from the legal and.
Yeah, we've,
Deputy Attorney General.
yeah, we have double checked all that,
Yes,
so it would be legal that way.
but unfortunately, that information wasn't corrected, even when that information did come back from the Attorney General and the State Tax Commission. So that was too bad.
So,
I'm okay if people disagree with the bond, I don't have, I understand that. I just wanna make sure that they have the correct information when they went to make that
Sure.
decision.
Okay.
I mean, I support it because I see the good, and I see the need.
mhm.
And I love the accountability that a bond has.
Yeah.
I love that you have to spend it for only that and cannot spend it for anything else. I love that.
And again, we've already had conversations, Ms. Fisher and I, and with our cabinet, with Superintendent, Dr. Stein, or Dr. Howell, about enhancing our, sorry.
Those old Soda Spring.
That
days
was
coming
an
out.
old superintendent, sorry about that. Again, about enhancing kind of our website. You know, we've dove in so much into our taxes, we need to just continue to be transparent. To say, okay, this is where we're at, this is already the history that we've had. And this is how we are, you know, compared to our good county and city friends as well, in the way of taxes. So, sorry about that.
I did have one other thing that I wanted to say. So I wondered, you know, what can we do? Of course, we can always do things to improve. And I've heard accountability, transparency, and input. Those are huge things. And so I thought, well, maybe we can make it a little bit simpler. All of it's online, the budgets and all the 200 pages of all the things that everything, you know, that the money is spent on, that I read every month. I don't know if anybody else reads that, but I come in and ask questions, you know, and it's all there. But I don't know that maybe if we put it in a more understandable way, so you say, here it is, right here. And then also, I had suggested this too, to have a parent advisory committee where it's volunteers come in, you know, help us. I mean, I'm a parent, I have my opinions, but I want to know what other people think. And I have had so many good suggestions from people that have, it's changed my way of thinking, and I appreciate it.
And I think the board has that of flexibility to, you know, create the committee that you feel is needed. You know, parent advisory, facility advisory, budget advisory, you know, I would welcome any and all of that.
I haven't mentioned this to other board members, but a big request has been to start our meetings later so that public have an opportunity to come.
Oh, that's a good
You know,
thing to know.
to start at 4:30, a lot of people that may have wanted to attend this meeting would not be able to.
Public comment
But
doesn't
I was gonna
start
say,
until like 6.
well, that's true. And, you know, and here we had those public information meetings and nobody came.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, I know we just need to create, though, I think it's again, it's that token of how do we approach so that the public can feel like we are trying to be transparent and accessible.
And we had also talked about making the public comment more accessible. If the meeting has started, you can still do a public comment. We had talked about that too. You have to still fill out the form, you have to still, you know, turn it in, but if it's not, you know, just making it more, if somebody comes late, if they have work and they still want to make a comment, make it easier. I want to hear all the comments. I'm totally fine with hearing people that disagree with me because it's not my choice. We're representing the choice of everybody, and that's what we're here for, is to find out what the best option is and to use our judgment.
The only other thing I would make as part of that comment, though, is that we all are elected. And so we have been elected to represent folks. And so even though the decisions, it's not our personal agendas up here. I mean, so the input is important, but at the end of the day, it's still, we make those choices. And that's why I 100% still, well, and that's why we have to listen. We have to listen and have to be accessible. But I also just think that that's an important point, is that we are elected officials. We were elected to be the voice of the community, which is why I still 100% stand behind what we did.
Yes, I asked hundreds of people, and I asked people, tell us, write a letter, tell us. We listen, we read them, we want to know, and we didn't get hardly any. But then people would say, well, they didn't ask this group of people. Like, yes, we did. Yes, we did. Did you want to?
No,
Oh, you got it. Okay.
but you have to vote your conscience.
Right.
I mean, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, you listen to
I mean,
everything and then.
if they, why elect somebody if they don't have a conscience to vote or express or show? Come on.
And I will again comment that the other unique thing, again, thank you, board members, because again, you are the only unpaid elected officials in the state of Idaho. Everybody else gets a little stipend. See, the money guy
No,
from the money guy.
that's not
Just
true.
letting you know. It's not
It
true?
costs us money.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
it-
right.
It
There's,
costs us money
yeah, so anyway, thank you
Yeah, we
for
do, we
all you
pay.
do.
in a lot of ways.
So maybe if I could summarize what I thought I heard and direction for us. So first up, I think the board would like to have some more discussion maybe on the two bond approach. I think that came up a couple of times. But definitely you're thinking about running it again in May, so we can continue with that thought process as well. And then I know we asked this question of our construction managers and design team about the costs associated with kind of a build in sections as we go. And maybe it wasn't cost effective, but is it more beneficial? I mean, effective as, timeline goes and restoring some of these opportunities for our kids, say at Highland. And so we can address that again. Jonathan, I think you had a follow-up question on the insurance that we can ask tomorrow. Uh-huh. And so anything else that the board members need, that's what Sue wrote me a little note. Any other information from us that you need as we look ahead here into the next month or so with direction?
So I just would have a question on, and maybe this is just a closer look at the budget. I mean, we had allotted money for the PV Tech remodel, but now we've gotten the, where were those funds?
Those
I
were
mean,
ESSER monies?
That was
Uh-huh.
ESSER monies, and so
Yeah.
where have we reapportioned those?
So we put aside $1 million for that renovation, which fortunately we got the grant for
Right.
$6.5 million.
Sure,
The bid came in at 7.1 million, so we know we'll take up 600,000 of that. But there's about 400,000 difference, give or take, just thinking about the math here. When we're talking 42 million or even
Drop in
or
the
45
bucket.
million or 33 million, depending on what we do with the Century decision. 400,000 is a good number. It's not quite enough.
Right.
Another one that we talked about was,
didn't go to school for math.
was the, maybe the sale of the balance of the property on Jerome and Olympus. So we know we're gonna trade a fair amount of that space, but likewise, there's some left. Another possibility that we had discussed early on was our SIP. Do we want to, typically, we spend $5 to $6 million on SIP annual projects. And so do we reduce that amount, say 20%, over the course of a couple years? Now, this board will be in place, a little bit of a change coming up with Mr. Vitale, and Ray will be joining, but, so you can't commit further, other boards into the future, but definitely as you look at those SIP projects, but we don't want to fall short in
Well,
our
and I don't want to
maintenance schedule.
sabotage
Exactly.
other
Our middle
projects.
schools and our
Right.
elementaries.
Right.
So that's something that we'll have to evaluate very closely, but is that a possibility? And so those are some possible funding sources I think that we may have that, in fact, Jonathan and I had this conversation earlier today. And I said, let's get, refine that process a little bit and see where we're at, because I think the board will probably ask us, do we have a little bit of spending money that we can help on the other side of this? Yep.
I suggested I know it's not ideal, but I don't want to make these, make the gym smaller, Because then it's just gonna be, in the future, people are gonna look back and think, what were they doing? They had this money, and then they just made the gym so that it wouldn't accommodate future growth. They didn't think ahead, and now we gotta go back, and it's gonna cost many more times to fix a problem. So that's why I don't think we should reduce the size of the gym on our plan. But like you said, if we could maybe start the auditorium after we see if the second bond would pass, but leave that space so that if it doesn't pass, it's still there, so that we're thinking ahead for the future. If we don't have the money, it's okay, we don't have the money. But I think whatever we do, we have to do it the very, very best we know how. And if it's a smaller amount, that's okay. It's not that okay, but it's okay. But I think we should do it right, whatever we do. Because one suggestion was, well, should we make it smaller? I don't think so. I think we have got to plan for the future, and we don't want anybody to look back at this and think, wow, that was a really bad decision. One other thing that I would like, maybe the insurance, because I was listening to Travis, and you've said this several times, the band and the choir don't have a place, and it isn't a solid place. It may work for the future, but there's a possibility it may not end up working out for the future. It's a property we don't own. So we can't, it's not a for sure guarantee. What I would like to know is ask the insurance, what do you suggest? Because we paid for insurance for displaced students that they have to 100% cover. And that doesn't mean 15 minutes across town and 15 minutes back, because then half of the, a lot of their learning time is taken away. So I would like to ask them, what is your suggestion? Because these displaced students don't have a place for band and choir, and then maybe whatever else there are needs. Those are two that he said, but maybe if there's a need for something else, maybe make sure that we're asking them, these are needs that we're gonna have in the next 3 years to predict as best as we can the needs that we might potentially have and that we have right now that we need to be able to address and have them pay for, not our taxpayers pay for.
And at some point, will they cut us off because they're like, well, you took a whole year to decide what you were gonna do, so this last year's on you. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's a concern I have.
I asked Jonathan that too yesterday.
Yeah, they haven't indicated anything like that, and obviously we'll fight on that one, because we need the time to make sure we do it
Yeah,
right.
because if in a year, our band and choir space isn't working out anymore, because we don't own it, we have to have insurance pay for a new space. That's what our insurance was, we were promised that it would pay for, is all the displacement costs.
So I can definitely, we'll get numbers on, okay, if you leave the gymnasium the same, this is how much it's gonna cost, and see if we, obviously, the budget, will, unfortunately, has to drive a lot of things in the scale of this, and so. But we can get those numbers and share them with the board for sure.
Thank you.
All righty. Cool. Next on the agenda is public and written comment. Written comment was received and is included in the packet, so you can look at that
Online, yeah.
online. We have not received any requests for public comment, and so that concludes this meeting. I declare us adjourned.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks for your time. Not even.